And to wrap up this segment on social impact, we'll have Helena Pham, the managing partner for partnerships and changemaker Consulus Global, for our first panel session.
Can you see me?
I can see you.
Yes, thank you. That's the most important. So good morning, everyone. Buongiorno. And welcome to our panel. The title is very intriguing, isn't it? Navigating a fractured world. New paradigms for global trade, collaboration, and social impact. We meet at a time of rising global uncertainty. James Moore just shared a lot about that with us, from renewed trade tensions and escalating tariffs to growing institutional fragmentation. The global economy is under immense pressure, with projections showing a 305 billion loss in exports due to the current and recent trade barriers alone. These aren't just the numbers. They reflect the deep fractures in how we collaborate across borders. So this panel is under the segment called Creative Leadership for Social Impact. And at Consulus, we believe these disruptions, these uncertainties, call not just for new policies or technologies, but a fundamental shift in how we lead toward a culture that prioritizes shared value and long-term resilience over short-term gains. So a compelling example comes from economy of convenience. From the Asia-Pacific context, we have something called 7 impact measurements. So we call it economy at large, where businesses commit to lifting the whole industries through active sharing of knowledge and resources. This approach is a timely model for how leadership can help mend what is broken. So at Consulus across 23 countries since 2004, we have seen that these purpose-driven models, economy at large approach, aren't theoretical. They are necessary, and today we explore how creative leadership can reshape the system of trade, trust, collaboration to achieve both prosperity and impact. So my name is Helena Pham. I'm from Vietnam. I'm a free thinker. I'm a managing partner of partnerships and changemakers at Consulus, and it's my honor to guide these conversations with all our distinguished changemakers, leaders in your field. So let's go to the big question. So our panel is about fractured world, right? So what is breaking in global trade and development? So this one, the question is for everyone. So from your vantage point in your own expertise, field of expertise, what are the structural weaknesses in today's global economic or development architecture? And where are the cracks most visible? From trade imbalance to institutional fatigue, what's your view on that? Please, all of you.
Thank you so much. Let me structure the conversation around what we believe is happening and what the evidence is showing us that is happening. So when we talk about a fractured world, we're talking also about a world that is not listening to each other, is not listening to evidence, so the evidence that the planet is showing us clearly, and a world where, as I said during my introductory speech, we are focused more on ecosystems than on ecosystems. So how do we address that? We address that by listening to the communities, by listening to those people that, in our case, we invest in improving the lives of rural communities. And why is IFAD investing in these rural communities? We're investing in rural communities because it's a matter of social justice. We heard from speakers before, but we also hear from speakers every year at the COP, the Conference on Climate Change, how these people are those that contribute the least to climate change and yet are those that are most affected by it. But do you know how much financing goes to these people and how underfunded agriculture and sustainability to small-scale farmers is? It's extremely, extremely unfunded. So in order to address this, we need not only technology, we also need a change in policies, we need a change in regulations, and we need a change in our mindsets. Changes in the way that we invest, because when I really liked what you said in your introductory speech about traceability. And traceability is not only understanding where our food comes from and whether the food that we are eating is safe and is sustainable. Traceability is also, as you said during your introductory speech, understanding, and this is of key importance, we hear about something that is called donor fatigue. And is, our donors, the people that contribute to funding all of these initiatives, they hear the same discourses over and over again about sustainability, about impact, but they want to know whether all those discourses are based on data, are based on evidence, and if we're really delivering the impact that we claim to deliver. How do you do that? We take advantage and we leverage on emerging technologies such as blockchain and artificial intelligence to be able to trace those payments. The technology is still in pilot stages. I don't know if you guys are developing something more sophisticated than we are. We know that other development banks, the World Bank and even UNHCR, they are working really hard to trace payments so that we can really tell donors each of your dollar, how much is really impacting, how much is really reaching our project participants. So we are in that process of co-creation with our development partners. But in the meantime, we also need to be accountable. So, and accountability is about having that data, working on data quality, and working with the communities so that we continue the data collection. We all know that artificial intelligence is only as good as the data that is feeding it and the machine is learning from. So it's only as good as that data that we can say that the models are useful for the purposes that we intend. Now, there is also the issue of ethical AI. So we're working very much with governments, supporting regulation. IFAD has been invited to be part of INADBA, the International Association of Trusted Blockchain Applications. And our role there is an ethical role, ensuring that emerging technologies are affordable, are accessible to those groups that are most vulnerable and that would otherwise not be able to afford these technologies, but also that the use of technologies such as AI is an ethical use. AI can be used, offers tremendous opportunities, but access to this data also presents enormous challenges. So addressing those challenges in regulation, but not only in regulation, also through technology, is of key importance. And then through partnerships and collaboration with communities. We cannot forget that those people that we aim to serve are our, they are our main, we call them also clients. They are our main clients. And for us, profit means impact. So, it's not only about the return on investment that IFA does from a financial point of view, but it's also the return on impact. And most importantly, how we are really changing the lives of rural people for the better. I cannot speak enough about collaboration, panels like this where we're sharing knowledge, where we're sharing experiences, listening from you, and I would really like to listen from you and hear what you have to say, are fundamental so that we can design these strategies, these technologies, and the initiatives, our investment initiatives, with the inputs from the people, the inputs from the communities that we work with. Very, very important is the co-financing. So working with other multilateral development banks, international financial institutions, and governments is of key importance, because there is not even the World Bank, and this is something, a discussion that we have continuously within the UN system, but also with the IFIs. There is not one single agency, there is not one single organization that can say that they will shape the world on their own. We need to shape the world together. We need everybody's contribution to change things. Thank you.
Yeah, would you like to add on to Gladys?
Well, yes. Well, your question is a question that needs several hours, because you ask for cracks and structural weaknesses in the global world. I mean, there are so many. So let me be very just to point out a few things. First, I think there is we didn't solve still the mismatch between abundance of capital in some sides of the world and needs from development in other sides of the world. So this is really a structural weaknesses of our system. There are places where there are also opportunities to invest and to create growth. Capitals are in other places. So the role of international organization is extremely important on this. But then there is another weakness. The weakness of today is the lack of confidence in international organization and multilateral organization. And this is, to me, one of the most challenging risk in these days. I worked for a few years at the International Monetary Fund. I was the representative of the Italian government, the Albanian, the Greek, the Portuguese, and several other governments in the board of the IMF. And my experience, less than 10 years ago, not many, many years ago, is that there was, a group of countries around the United States that had a view and were able to give direction of the organization. I think this is not the case anymore, and this is extremely dangerous. Third weakness is international trade. We cannot speak. We can forget what is happening. Trade is a way to unify companies, people, to share views, to increase competitiveness. And all of this is at risk now. We have to say it. When the president of the largest economy in the world put sanctions on small countries, not just large economies, but also small countries, I think is a threat. I was particularly shocked during the Liberation Day, seeing in the list of the countries that President Trump sanctioned, Myanmar, who had an earthquake a few days before, or Bangladesh, who had a flooding. So I said, something is not working, because this cannot be a threat to the United States. Come on. But probably the largest and most relevant weakness is, I think, of our time, is the lack of leadership and short-termism. If I see the side of the world I know, Europe, we had wise leaders after the Second World War that built Europe, that built prosperity. I don't see this kind of visionary leaders, at least in this side, and I think it's the same everywhere in the world. So the lack of leadership is, I think, one of the most challenging problems we have.
Thank you so much for sharing your view. And Jim Small and High Excellency Sheikh, do you have to? Yeah, please add a few from your view. Thank you.
Having had a very rich background in the US government, having known President Trump for almost 30 years, having had breakfast, lunch, and dinner with the man, being in Mar-a-Lago with him, being in his office in New York before he became president, this is a particularly riveting moment for me. I don't think it is the lack of leadership, quite frankly, that President Trump has shown. I think he has this notion of wanting to create an aura of leadership that has never been shown in the United States before. I think we're in a position where there is a desire for him to be able to shape the world, indeed the United States, into a form that we have not seen ever in our history. I mentioned during my remarks about D-Day. That was an extraordinary moment, and as I mentioned, we were justifiably proud for that because we brought together British troops, French troops, others who had been confronted by this extraordinary evil in the case of Germany. And indeed, it was the German chancellor who condemned his country for what it went through and why the United States had to join its allies in being able to forge D-Day. I think it's extraordinary to see that some of our great universities, beginning with Harvard, continuing on with Columbia and many others, are being essentially attacked because of some past mistakes, but not to the extent of being able to destroy them and to bring them down. But indeed, that's going on right now. It is extraordinary for me to see that if certain individuals are being defended by law firms in the United States because they feel that they have been righted in the wrong way, to see that those law firms now are the target to be destroyed effectively is really quite something. To all of a sudden have the president call for Greenland becoming a part of the United States, an incredible mass of land that is 3 times the size of the state of Texas, to try to convert the Gaza Strip into the Riviera is extraordinary. To be able to say, we are going to make Canada the 51st nation, or the 51st state of our country, that's an extraordinary moment and is rather jarring to those of us who appreciate history and appreciate what our future has to hold. We're going through an incredible moment in which we need to be able to have the support of our former and current allies to ensure that our future is strong, that our future is committed to the values that certainly Consulus and other organizations have approved over time. And so I am concerned for our country. I became close to the president as a result of teaching his son, who I remained very close to, teaching him at Georgetown, where I taught for more than 20 years. And so we're really in a very difficult period of time, and there are few conferences like Consulus that are taking place today to be able to discuss how we create the peace, how we create the constructive future, how we create the creative future and culture of our world. It's wonderful, and I hope none of you have missed the fact that the new Pope is partly American, that he was born and raised in Chicago. He then worked in Peru for 20 years and then came to the Vatican. And indeed, he's very sensitive to it. But to show you the differences that exist in the United States, his own brother, he was one of 3 boys. His brother lives in Florida and is he's a strong member of the Trump organization, in which he has a completely different perception of what the world needs and what President Trump brings to the plate. And so my hope is that, and the Washington Institute, quite frankly, was created after I had had this rich background, and I fully understood that we cannot solve our future by business alone, by government alone, by society alone, that the only way that we can approach our future is by bringing together those 3 sectors in our world, bringing them together to be able to really take on the future and to determine what is in the best interest of all of mankind. And so I'm very grateful for the fact that Consulus has been shaped up this way. It's used the terminology, shape the world summit, but indeed the Washington Institute itself has as its motto, shaping the world together. And so we have an extraordinary mission together in being able to shape the world and to see what we can do to make it a better place. Thank you.
I think it's moving to be about politics. But I think the problem is not the policymakers. The problem is the information they receive and the advisors that are around them. I remember in 2001, when September 11 happened, I was in California in my home in San Ramon. I went to my friend and teacher, Hamza Yusuf, and I told him, look, attack happened in New York. And I think the all fingers are going to go to Muslims, but not all Muslims. We need to tell them this is extremist group. They hijack our religion, and we need to fight with them against those they hijack our religion. So we've been able to fly in the first flight to Washington, D.C., and we met President Bush. And during that meeting, he mentioned that he's going into this campaign of infinitive justice. So we said, Mr. President, you can't say infinitive justice. Hamza Yusuf said that to him. Because that's the God right. There's no infinitive justice in our life, in this life we have. So he said, oh, sorry, we don't have theologian in Pentagon. So sorry, I will change it. So then they change it. So I'm saying just those advisors around the president, sometimes they need to be educated about, or minimum consulting with authors around the world about everything that's going to be, if it's going to be affected authors, they need to be asked the wise people of that place. I will tell you, if you go now engaging in the Sahel, in Africa, with your business, I'm advising you, as the African said, there is a tree called baobab. Usually when they want to take pieces of it, they call people and they said, who's between you knows how to praise this tree? Burn anyone. So go to that tree, keep telling the praising it, and cut what you want. So when you're going with your business anywhere in the world, please recognize people culture and praise them and make you feel comfortable about receiving you. So you cannot just come parasite yourself and your company there in the land and you're accepting them all or expecting them all to accept you. But I'm telling you, those you have there as a CEOs, or they coming from your schools. So me, I'm not gonna surprise because I'm a global citizen. I know the culture of everyone. But those people who want to sell them your things in everywhere, you need to respect their religion, their culture, as much as they're gonna respect your religion and your culture. So you are welcome to my home, but please respect respect my way of how I'm living. So thank you so much.
Thank you. There's still so much we have to do, isn't it? So much. And I hope today that we are here, we get more insights, and then we can act together immediately without fear. Just hope, we have faith. But since the session we only have 25 minutes, I asked two difficult questions. So I have just one round of the last question. In one sentence, each of you, please share with us what is one mindset shift that today's leaders, including all of us here, including us, must adopt to reshape this world for all of us and for the few newer generations in the future. One sentence.
I'll try. I think sharing experience and sharing knowledge, there is no one single expertise that can solve the problems we have today. You need all different expertise together.
Thank you.
I'm going to say three words: humility, communion, and collaboration. It is through humility that we really listen to each other, that we recognize each other's situation, and that we can empathize. Empathy is a really, really strong value. And consciousness, but consciousness in communion, so that we can all work together for a more impactful world. Thank you.
Just very briefly, as you can appreciate, I worked for a person by the name of Ronald Reagan and was very close to him. And I must say that, that it is also important to recognize that we can develop peace through strength. And that's important. Who will ever forget that man who had been advised not to say this, stood at the Berlin Wall and said, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall." Well, that wall came down. And we're all appreciative to Ronald Reagan for having had the guts to be able to say that. And so it's not simply a matter of coming up with pleasantries. It's being able to let the world know what it is on its face, and that ultimately becomes the credo for how we live as a human family. And I only hope and pray that we are able to gather that strength once again to be able to shape our world in the way that we believe that it should be shaped.
Um, 10 years ago, my dad made an interview with CNN, and he said that he wished the defense ministries put 1% of their budget for peace. They invest in the war, but they don't invest in the peace. And our government in UAE, United Arab Emirates, believe in shared wealth and separating peace. So that's the only two things we need to focus on: share your wealth and separate peace. Peace could be a smile face in the face of a stranger, could be helping someone. I think spreading peace has a lot of faces and meanings, and each one of us can achieve first his own tranquility and buy peace for himself before even he share it with others. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for all your wisdom and encouragement and call for actions. And on behalf of Consulus, I just want to wish all of us, may we all lead with purpose, design with empathy, and act with courage. Then we have a more united world for all and for one and for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much.